I mean, you had your chance and then you blew it.
That is the most absurd statement of the year.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, baby.
I'm in my zone, I'm feeling it.
Live from Rock Solid Studios in Granite Falls, it's time for MinneZona Sports, live with DJ Matty C and Paul the Shield Vold.
And this is MinneZona Sports Live. We are back for another episode. We are so stoked that you are here with us. Yes, claps all around, zoners. And without further ado, I'm your host, DJ Matty C, a.k.a. Matt Count, a.k.a. Matty C, a.k.a. Cali, etc. And all the way from Woods and Shore Studios in Aiken, Minnesota, Paul Vold, the Shield. What's going on, Shield?
It is Wednesday going on about midnight, even though it's 7 o'clock, feels like it's midnight.
Yeah.
Long week it has already been. I'm so stoked about the show tonight. I don't even care if I'm running on 4 hours of sleep for the third day in a row. Let's get to it tonight.
Let's get to it, Voldy, exactly. And you're probably wondering, like, what in the world are these guys wearing on their face? Well, for one, we're just pulling our inner Dalvin Cook, per se, because he had quite a day against the hated Green Bay Packers. 4 touchdowns, 226 yards total. Hey,
let's go!
Let's get it pumped up around here. So let's get claps going. Let's get the zoners chiming in here too. I mean, we've got so much to talk about. I'm so excited. We're gonna have so much fun. Let's get to it because I think it's time for a little bit of some tater tot. Hot take.
Fresh out of the oven, it's Tater Tot Hot Take.
All right, it's fresh out of the oven. It's hot. It's piping hot. We got a lot to get to, and I mean, it's Dalvination, baby, like we're saying here in the lower third. Voldy, the Vikings get a win that we really didn't expect them to get in at Lambeau Field for one.
No.
But here's the thing. The Minnesota Vikings, Dalvin Cook cooked, and I mean cooked, the Green Bay Packers. Voldy, your thoughts on the game and how great Dalvin Cook was?
That was the only way the Vikings were going to win that game, is Dalvin Cook scoring 4 touchdowns. Yes, the defense came up with some clutch plays down the second way, getting a little bit of help from the referees as well. Thank God for once the Vikings get some calls against the Packers, but that was the only way the Vikings were going to win that game. Dalvin gets out in front, just starts running over everybody. He's feeling good. The pulled groin or whatever it was, it's strong once again. Doing a little bit of action out of the backfield as well. Kirk Cousins didn't look like crap like he usually does. It worked out perfectly. Some of the rookies came through with some clutch plays. A couple of nice blocks out in front from Bradbury and even Ezra Cleveland on that 50-yard touchdown run from, Dalvin Cook too. Overall, this was a pretty complete game, despite the fact that it had to come all the way down to the very end for the Vikings to get the win.
Yes, and I would like to add to that too, because you talked about the offensive line. The offensive line was just absolutely mauled the Packers' defensive line and linebackers. And honestly, there are so many missed tackles. Dalvin just is so shifty. He's a great back out of, catching the football. And I remember, a certain running back that also had a lot of success too, and his name was Adrian Peterson. But he wasn't as, the difference between Dalvin and Adrian, obviously we won't get too much into it, was that Adrian couldn't block for one, especially in pass protection, and he really couldn't catch out of the backfield towards in the prime of his career.
Trash.
Dalvin has that and more. Absolutely.
It does.
And remember not too long ago, Voldy, some people wanted Dalvin Cook to be traded and thought that Alexander Mattison would be a good replacement. Now, I'm not saying that Alexander Mattison wouldn't be. I'm just saying that we need to hold on to Dalvin Cook. Jimbo says Chuck Foreman. Yeah, yeah. My dad used to have a jersey of Chuck Foreman's as well. Chuck Foreman was another great Minnesota back. But yeah, just going back to Dalvin, I couldn't believe how many open lanes there were in that for him. I mean, he was very shifty. He was ready to go, and when he's healthy, it's over. It's almost over. Yeah, exactly. And Ezra Cleveland also putting that 1+ Chuck Foreman. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Chuck Foreman was a beast, and I never saw him play because, again, I wasn't born yet. That's the thing. But from what
it's a generational thing.
It's a generational thing. So, yeah, Dalvin Cook, I think, has been pretty much the whole offense for the Minnesota Vikings, and I'm sure the Zoners agree with that as well. Now, Kirk Cousins played the safe game, Voldy, this week. What are your thoughts on the way that Kubiak and Zimmer utilized Cousins this week or this past week?
I think it was definitely one of those that the Vikings knew they had to play it safe because of the fact that they had Dalvin Cook ready to go 100% coming off the bye week as well. Things weren't going well. The fact that as many touchdowns as interceptions that Kirk has, which is pretty much a 1-to-1 ratio right now. And, obviously you start getting Justin Jefferson more involved with the offense. He was the big contributor out of the receiving core. Adam Thielen was nowhere to be seen on that side of the ball as well. And, overall, Irv Smith Jr. is slowly starting to get himself back into the swing of things with the offense. And, we'd like to see more out of Kyle Rudolph if it comes that way. But overall, the overall game plan, give the ball to Dalvin, don't give it to the other team. That's basically the game plan from here on out. Give the ball to Dalvin, don't give it to the other team, and fill in the cracks here and there.
Exactly. And Dalvin, he was Offensive Player of the Week, just announced today. And that's what I love about this team is that they're not giving up on the season. They're not, because they're trying to get back to where they were last season and winning games and running the ball with Dalvin, play action pass, all that. But defensively, there's a banged up secondary against those Packers, and we were worried with Aaron Rodgers as well.
Yeah.
But how about DJ Wanham? DJ Wanham just crushing Rodgers at the end there.
Fantastic.
Oh, there was no greater joy than watching Aaron Rodgers get sacked and DJ Wanham forcing the fumble there. We are 2-5, says Cole Munson. Would be 1-6 without him. Great week, but let's not overreact, boys. Who's overreacting? Are you overreacting, Voldy?
Overreacting by the underreaction from Cole Munson.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Timberwolves and talk about his overreaction to that.
Exactly.
That here in a little.
So yeah, Cole, don't. We're not overreacting. We beat a team that we weren't supposed to beat. Why wouldn't we be happy about that? That's my question. So I don't know what Cole's trying to do here, but whatever. But one thing I want to say, defensively, they followed through. Rodgers did a pretty good job. With Devontae was Devontae. I mean, there's no question about that. He kicked butt. Aaron Madsen says tank for Trey.
No.
I don't. I just want to finish the season. It's just, stop with all this tank. At least it wasn't tank for Trevor. I will say that. Because
We'll give him credit for that.
Yeah, you know how I feel on tank for Trevor. So,
Yep.
But just to kind of sum everything up, then I want to ask you about this upcoming game here. A win is a win, baby, as Jack Kiesling is saying. Get excited. My team lost and had key injuries again. FML. I mean, it's a rough.
Super Bowl hangover for them Niners, baby.
Me and Shield and I were just talking about that. So there's that as well. But to put a bow on this, keep using Dalvin, and we'll see what happens when they take on Detroit. So looking ahead to Detroit, Voldy, it's looking pretty good for the Vikings because they're at home. They haven't had a lot of success at home, for one.
Nope.
But it's one of those things where I don't think we have to worry about too many injuries. Well, and then knock on wood, no one's getting COVID and things like that.
Right.
But we found out that Matt Stafford is on the COVID reserve list. So I think that's something to make a note of. So what are you looking for in this game coming up here, Voldy?
I think it's going to be an opportunity for the Vikings defense to finally showcase themselves a little bit more. Last week was a really nice, promising start. The fact that they've got the opportunity to do something against an offense that's going to be working in a new starting quarterback for this week because the fact that Matt Stafford's going to be out. Opportunity as well for, whoever's going to be playing defensive back. Could be Adam Thielen, could be you or I playing Sunday against, the wide receivers for the Detroit Lions. We'll have to wait and see because of that fact. And you see that defensive line can come through with James Lynch. Hopefully he gets some more snaps. DJ Wanham's been a really nice, addition early on with a couple of really nice plays down the stretch. And, I think it's going to come down to see if the Vikings defense can come up with some big stops.
Yeah. And I think Kirk's going to get a little bit. I mean, I think now they're starting to trust him a little bit more. So let's see what happens. But Cole Munson's trying to make up for what he said here, saying trading him is a ridiculous idea and using this as your period or point when we are 1-5 going into that game, overreacting in my eyes. It's not overreacting. I don't know what he's talking about. First of all, so
it's Munson.
Yeah, exactly. Ricky Rubio apologist.
This is Minnesota sports. The fact that we overreact is not the issue. The fact that we underreact at the most ridiculous things is probably the issue overall.
Fair enough, and that's a good point. Moving on, Voldy, we got to talk about that chip shot against the Gophers. For one, I think should have won that game.
Yeah.
And as we take off our sunglasses here, because we're moving on to our next segment. But the Gophers, tough loss. You can't miss a chip shot like that, Voldy. So what were your thoughts on the game overall?
I didn't have the full experience to watch the game overall. I was actually calling a really good high school game on for the Aiken Gobbler high school football team. A nice win they had over Moose Lake Willow River. Shout out to all the Gobblers that are probably tuning in for tonight. But, I got the chance to stay up to date with the scores as well. The fact that I saw Mohamed Ibrahim score 5 touchdowns in that game as well, I thought there was a whole bunch of typos. Like, why do they keep sending out the same alert every 10 minutes or whatever? There's no way he's scoring 5 touchdowns against Maryland. The Gophers have a problem against Maryland. They're very bipolar. They either win by a lot or they just get shot out the door, especially in Maryland as well. 2 years ago, was it like 52-10 or something like that they lost? Or 54-13, some ridiculousness. They just got ran out the door at College Park. Then they come back, they get a 50-point win against Maryland at TCF Bank Stadium. Now this year, more of the same. Overtime, the chip shot loss. The fact that the Gophers issue comes down to kicking is about as Minnesota as it gets. Because they've run through, since PJ Fleck's been there, is he going on his 4th, 5th year with the program? Either way, he's gone through about 13 kickers, it feels like, and they run about 3 or 4 kickers a game. it's ridiculous the fact you can't lock down one position on the field that is obviously in that situation a must-have. You got to have somebody reliable, especially when you're rotating in guys that may not have the full confidence of the team or even confidence in themselves. That's the problem. You got to be able to look at a guy and say, he's going to do his job, and we're going to live with it. Unfortunately, with the way extra points are being kicked nowadays, it's not a gimme anymore.
No.
And, well, unfortunately, just didn't work out for the Gophers at the worst possible time again.
I watched, I like you did, Voldy. I mean, I was tuning into the highlights, things like that. And, again, it's the defense. And
Yep.
we've talked at length about this. And I think that with these first two games, I mean, do you give them a pass from last game? No, I can't give them a pass because you're supposed to beat Maryland. You're supposed to beat Maryland. And they didn't. But a lot of people are questioning whether if they should have went for it or, went for two, or just, I mean, it's a chip shot. You should be making that. I understand. Okay, this is college. We get it. Okay, we get it. But if you have the ball at, the 2-yard line or whatever it is for college, you should be making that. You should be making that. And again, it's the Minnesota, it's like a Minnesota curse with kickers. Okay? It's not just the Vikings. It's the Gophers now too. So, what do? Well, if your defense can't stop a nosebleed, then maybe you should have went for it. Just
Probably.
an idea. And I love Fleck. Don't get me wrong. I just think he thought he had enough trust in his kicker, Walker, to tie it up and then see what happens next possession against Maryland. And then Tua's brother played pretty doggone well. I feel they should have went for it. They should have taken the Zim approach. They should have taken the Zim approach to see if it can work and get the 2-point, win the game. So hey, they're sitting at 1-1, and yes,
should have taken the wind is what they should have done.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Voldy. That's a very good point. And Zim's done that before too. I remember when he did that against the Rams not too long ago, a couple of years ago, actually, I should say. But the Gophers, we got to see where it goes from there. We got some zoners chiming in here too, so let's get to that. So Cole Munson, he made every other extra point up to that point. We are better than Maryland. Kick the extra point and extend the game.
Yeah,
I can respect that. I damned if you do, damned if you don't.
exactly.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't. And in that instance, I feel like they should have went for it because, well, the thing is Cole Munson is a very conservative, takes a conservative approach to this because he doesn't want, like, if you go for it and lose, then, but if you miss the extra point, then you're getting the same ridicule from fans and everyone else. So, Voldy, would you have gone for it? For two?
Honestly, probably wouldn't have. I probably would just kick the extra point because of the fact that the Gophers, the Gophers, they started on defense and they would have had to start with the ball on offense the next series. And that's what you go for. You obviously got to go on defense to start overtime because of the fact you need to know what you're going to be scoring. If you're going to have to, get a touchdown, the other team gets a touchdown, or if you hold them to a field goal, then you can just score a quick touchdown and get the win. Honestly, probably would have gone for the kick regardless. It just sucks the fact that it had to happen against Maryland of all teams.
Yeah, and if it... Just think if it happened to them against Wisconsin or something like that.
Yeah,
Shoot,
exactly.
They can't even play an actual college football game for the Badgers, for one. But, yeah, I look at this game, and I think they just got to move on and see how it goes. I mean, you have a lot of playmakers on this team offensively, but defensively you got to figure some things out. and obviously special teams and everything like that, because offensively you're set. I don't see any discrepancies. You have a great offensive line. You have stud wide receivers, Chris Ottman-Bell, Agent Zero. So let's ride with it and see where it goes. That's how I look at it. And hopefully the Gophs can get back on track, but hey, it's kind of up in the air at this point. So we got to move on, because we have to get to a segment we haven't gotten to in a while. I believe it was July we got to this segment.
Goodness, has it already been that long?
Yeah, it's been that long, Shield. And
goodness.
So we need to get to this, because it's our top 10 infamous list. We have updated our top 10 infamous list. So let's get it rolling, because it's the list that nobody wants to be on.
Here's the list no one wants to be on. Infamous Top 10.
Okay, and if somebody says it's infamous, you're wrong. It's infamous here on MinneZona Sports Live, so don't even try with us. No, anyway, all jokes aside. Here are our lists. Voldy, you haven't seen mine yet. I've seen yours.
No, I haven't.
So I think this is going to be interesting to see. So, boom! Read it and weep, zoners. We've got our top 10, and there's been some changes. There's been some changes, and we're going to explain. We're going to explain. So, Voldy, I think I'll go first. You go second. You explain your top. So we're going to go from 10 to 1. I think that's the most fair out of this. So let's do that. So zoners, hopefully you had time to kind of drink it in here. But my number 10, Jimmy Butler. Okay. Why is Jimmy Butler was at number 7 the last time that I did this. Okay. And Jimmy Butler has proven that he can lead a team. And he was able to do that with the Miami Heat. But it still hurts Wolves fans to this day. To this day, what he did, how he handled the situation. And I don't think you can completely take him off this list whatsoever. The reason why he's at 10 is because he's proven that he can win, and he's found the right place in Miami. So I do give him applause for that, but still, I think he's a jackass. So there's still a little bit of remorse from that, but that's just how it is with how I think of Jimmy Butler. So let's move on to our number 9, Troy Williamson, because all the zoners, all the Minnesota Vikings fans know this guy was a first-round pick. He was a first-round pick, and he was a bust. He was terrible. He had drops everywhere. If you want to check out all the drops he had, look it up on YouTube. I promise. It'll be the funniest thing you'll see. I mean, it was painful watching it, obviously, but it's just, I can't believe how bad that guy was. Oh, but I don't know. All right, so my next one is, who the heck is Clowntonio Brown? Yes, Clowntonio.
Oh, that's a good one.
Brown. Why? Because in the past, I understand Antonio is back with the Bucks, and he's playing. He's playing for the Bucks, and he's going to be on a snap count and everything. It looks like he's put some stuff together. He's got his S word together. Okay, and that's fine, but. Oh, Voldy, you're going to like this one. Still got my Williamson jersey in my closet.
It's a collector's item at this point.
You need to send us a photo of that, Cole, okay? You need to send us a photo of that and let us know. But
it's fantastic.
But, yeah, Clowntonio, he's annoying. It's all about Antonio. Whatever he doesn't get, he wasn't on this list before because I wasn't totally, like he kind of moved on, but he's definitely on this list. He needs to be on this list after the stunts that he's been pulling. So
yeah.
So moving on to our next one, number 7, Michael Thomas. I've said this on the social medias, Does this guy ever shut up? I mean, good Lord. All he does is tweet about, he complains about this. He whines about that. He complains. It's like, shut up. Just play football. And then he gets mad. Now this is the best part. He gets mad because someone calls him Slant Boy. And gets in a big fight. And he can't play because he wanted to get in a fight with people. It's just ridiculous. This guy just keeps... screwing things up. He's got so much talent, and he's, getting in fights. He's on Twitter, complaining about this and that. It's like Michael Thomas.
And he's been hurt.
And he's been hurt. Michael Thomas, shut up, get on the field and play. Jeez, stop being like an ain't. But,
he's trying to Des Bryant himself out of the league.
Yeah, I believe so as well. All right. Ethan says, I think Paul Fenton needs to be on your list, Paul. Make him an adjunct piece of Chuck Fletcher entry.
That's good. That's going to be like that nice little 7-8 year gap of the Wild. Yeah, we'll be sure to mention old Paul Fenton in there.
Now, if it's not on the list, it'll probably be honorable mention. We do have honorable mentions here too, so
please send us your suggestions as well.
Yeah, exactly. But I should. It's dishonorable mention because we're talking about guys that, I should say, so correction there. But let's move on to my next one, and my next, A-Rod, because it's A-Rod. Now, I will give A-Rod some credit, Voldy. He's been kind of, not doing anything too sketchy or whatnot. It seems like people are starting to like him a little bit more now, but can you really trust A-Rod still? I mean, really?
I like A-Rod.
Okay.
Like A-Rod now, but post-playing career A-Rod is like 1,000 times better than when he was playing.
Yeah.
When he was playing, he was a jerk. But now that he's, off the Yankees, he's no longer playing. He's doing the commentator thing. He's all over the place doing stuff. Almost bought the Mets with J-Lo. I love A-Rod. I mean, he is a very, intellectual guy. He's very well spoken, and he's just great to even listen to, honestly. Hated the fact that he was a Yankee and all the other stuff he did on and off the field, but, obviously, during his playing years, the athlete A-Rod, the big-time involvement on the list.
Well, the fact that he lied and, he cheated, too. I mean, it's... And he said, I've done some bad things in the past. Randy Moss, another perfect example. I mean, Randy Moss is fantastic right now, but, Randy could be a jerk back in the day there, too. So,
oh, yeah.
Just throwing that out there. But A-Rod is at number 6. That could change, though. All right, number 5, Johnny Manziel. I didn't really move him because he's got to be on this list. And I know it's John Manziel, but for the infamous list, I'm going to stick with Johnny because Shield and myself, we like poking fun at Johnny Manziel because he had all the hype in college. He gets the NFL and he just doesn't get it. He wants to go party. He wants to go party and hang out with people. But
he got blacklisted in Canada.
Yeah.
You know how bad you have to be that nobody in the Canadian Football League wants you as your quarterback? That is bad.
He threw 4 interceptions with the Canada football team too. So I mean,
and he played 3 weeks with the AAF when that was a thing for a hot minute.
Yeah, it's Johnny. Exactly, Ethan. It's Johnny. I agree with you. So yeah, we got to have him on this list. We can't take him off the list. Number 4, Josh Gordon, doesn't change. I mean, gosh, people talk about signing him, but they never do. I mean, Josh Gordon just didn't seem to get it. He had all the talent in the world, but he decided to throw it away. And I understand that addiction is hard to come over, but how many chances do we need to give this guy before he gets it? So he's still on this list. I don't think he'll be moving anytime soon. Number 3, Sean Payton, because Bountygate, everything. Mocking the skull chant. That really didn't turn out in his favor, I might add. But Sean Payton needs to be on this list, especially for the Zoners, because Sean Payton should be public enemy number 1, and then public, I guess 1A, and then 1B would be Greg Williams, because he's the one that kind of started this whole Bountygate thing and whatnot. So Sean Payton's on. Number 3 doesn't change. Number 2, Donald Sterling. The guy's just a scumbag, and he won't be moving anytime soon. And number 1, infamous Jameis, because
never gonna change.
It's never gonna change. The reason why
until he comes on the show and we grill him, infamous Jameis is always going to be number 1 on our list. We need to get the right people out listening and saying we need infamous Jameis to come on the zone.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, because I don't know how he would take all this, especially with the crab legs, the yelling out profanities at a student union. Obviously, I'm not going to say it here, but it's just ridiculous how many times he puts himself in that position. But he's number 1 until someone is like, I'm getting sick of him being number 1. Well, no, it probably won't change, but we'll see. There's a lot of worthy recipients, that's for sure. Best station around. Well, we appreciate it. I mean, we're not really a station, but close enough. Close enough. But anyway, Shield, I believe it is your turn to talk about your top 10 infamous list. Yeah. So let's go through it.
Let's go ahead and hammer this out. I'm not sure if I spelled Coach Calipari's name right, but that's how much disdain that I have towards John Calipari and basically any coach nowadays in college basketball because of the fact of the old one and done rule. John Calipari, obviously one of those guys that's right at the top of the list. Since he took over at Kentucky, the huge influx of guys that have gone the old one and done route. This should really be John Calipari, in quotations, NCAA basketball, because of the fact that college basketball, Division I, Power 5 conferences, trash. Sean Avery would have definitely made my list too. I was really flipping back and forth if I wanted to go to Calipari or Sean Avery as well. But there's just so much hatred towards Sean Avery that I don't even want to give him the satisfaction of being on my list as well. John Calipari and college basketball as well in general is on my list because of the fact it devalues a sport that already has much, ire and disdain in my mind. But the fact that, college basketball and the fact that it's just, you're just diluting the system and really devaluing a lot of institutions and, colleges and universities to basically, make as much money off these guys that could flounder out in a year or two if they don't get into the right system. So John Calipari is on my list. Moving up to number 9, Major League Baseball. The fact that they went the route this year with the shortened season and quite possibly another league as well looking into it for the playoff format, which we'll talk about with Absurd or Approved coming your way tonight, basically expanding it out to everybody gets a trophy.
Yeah.
Expanding out the wild card round into a wild card series. Top 8 teams from each league go and make it into the playoffs. Why, though? But why? Am I happy about a second wild card game? Absolutely. I felt it was needed. But if you start expanding it out to the point where every team gets a chance, if your team's trash, your team's trash. You don't deserve to be in the playoffs. If your team made a good run down the stretch and just missed the playoffs, you have something to hold on to. It's called being a Twins fan. And Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred, and handling this whole season overall, probably could have done a little bit of a better job. Yes, COVID's a real thing. Yes, travel was a nightmare. The hub cities for Major League Baseball for, the playoffs, the wild card series, the championship, the division series as well. Well done.
Yeah.
But overall, not my cup of tea. Moving up to number 9, as we did mention a little bit earlier, this whole 7, 8, 9 year stretch with Chuck Fletcher, Paul Fenton as well, who got his cup of coffee with the Wild at the GM spot, has sunk this franchise into a spot that is going to be a few years before they can get themselves dug out, unless Bill Guerin's got the biggest flash in the pan to get the Wild back in the playoffs and actually do something for once. But Chuck Fletcher, a lot of bad contract signings, of course, with the big money right off the back to Zach Parise, Ryan Suter, going on their ninth year on this current contract, or their 10th year. They signed it. It was 2010 or 2011. I can't remember, for the gargantuan amounts of money. And, now at the tail end of their careers, probably looking on the other side of an opportunity for the Wild to actually do something and maybe pick something up for either one of them as well. Chuck Fletcher, Paul Fenton, definitely up there. Paul Fenton just couldn't get it figured out. But moving up to number 7, I'd like to see what Munson's got to say about this. The Minnesota Timberwolves. You can't figure out what to do with the number 1 overall pick. Yes, I know it's a bad year, but come on, you got to figure out something. Obviously, you don't want to put all your cards on the table before the final hand's been dealt out.
Sure.
But at least say that you've got a plan. To say that the fact you don't have a plan, maybe it's a little smoke and mirrors going on. But at least give the illusion you've got your ducks in a row and you're actually doing something for once. And the fact that it's professional basketball, Timberwolves are trash. I don't know if they're ever going to be good again. They had that one decent little shot, 2018, where they made the playoffs. Still got swept out of the barn. Not good overall. Moving up to number 6, we've already talked about Josh Boozehound Gordon, Super Bowl champ, by the way. Ended up pawning his Super Bowl ring. That didn't work out too well for him. He could be much higher on the list as well, but moving our way up to the list as well, from number 6 to number 5, it's our favorite, Phil the Thrill himself, Phil Kessel. My guy. Not my guy. Never will be my guy ever again. Quitting on the city of Boston, getting traded to Toronto, somehow ending up winning a couple Stanley Cups with Toronto, struggling out in the desert in Arizona. Still will never forget the fact that the one time I got to see Phil Kessel play against the Wild, we were sitting in a suite at the XL Energy Center. He whiffs a shot from the top of the circle. I yell at the top of my lungs, "Way to go, Phil, you fat piece of crap!" Highlight of that contest as well. Had the whole suite in stitches. Fantastic part. I mean, I'm no slim chicken myself, but come on, the guy's a professional athlete. Get it together. Moving up to number 4, Antonio Brown. So you like to allude to him as Clowntonio Brown.
Yeah.
The precursor that is Antonio Brown's tenure with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it's quite something. It is ESPN 30 for 30 worthy. Maybe his own special with Oprah Winfrey, Dr. Phil, Steve Wilkos show, whatever. Maury, he could probably fit an episode of Maury for his time as well. Antonio Brown has had the last 18 months a whirlwind. Maybe the last 2 years as well. From the time he left Pittsburgh, we know what happened with the Raiders, his 1 week with the Patriots, and everything and everywhere in between. Antonio Brown at number 4.
And it's not over yet either with it.
It's not over yet.
It's not over yet.
The introductory press conference today, rocking the TB12 hat, so he's already off to a good start. Him and Tom Brady are just melding together already. It's fantastic to see.
Now, here, one thing before we move on to your next couple here. If Tom Brady can't fix him, nobody can. Just saying. Just going to throw that out there. So.
Well, even the 1 week that he was with the Patriots down in Miami, he got a touchdown.
Yeah, he got
He had like 2 catches, and one of them was a beautiful touchdown. So let's hope they can make that magic happen again and actually do something with it.
Yeah, and hopefully he doesn't, do anything stupid. So there's that. Yeah. All right, continue, Voldy.
Well, we go to our top 3, and this is the trio of guys who've had numerous chances, screwed it up, still continue to get chances, still find ways to screw it up as well. We're at number 3, Mr. John Manziel, formerly known as Johnny Football, a.k.a. Johnny Bench, a.k.a. Johnny Gatorade, a.k.a. Johnny Canada, a.k.a. Johnny AAF, all the other Johnny nicknames we can come up with as well. The guy had a beautiful... I honestly thought he should have stayed at Texas A&M for an extra year or a year and a half. I don't know if he was one of those draft-eligible sophomores or whatever, but if he would have stayed in college, I think it would have done him a lot of good. Winning the Heisman his freshman year screwed up his whole career from the very beginning.
Yeah.
First freshman to win the Heisman, and ever since then, there's been freshman Heisman winners going like crazy. So John Manziel, it seems like he's doing okay post-career, playing a lot of golf, going to a lot of clubs, smoking a lot of cigars. Good for him. I probably would be doing that too, living off those royalties.
Mix in the water, Johnny. Mix in the water.
Mix in the water, yes.
Mix in the water, sir. Hydrate yourself. Stop, But if he's enjoying it,
the waters of Lake Minnetonka.
Yeah. I mean, I'll grab my Johnny Football jersey right now if you really want to. But anyway.
I would definitely rock a Johnny Manziel, Montreal Alouettes, or even the Hamilton Tiger Cats if that
career.
was
Career?
still a possibility. I would do it. But we're moving up to number 2 here. Yes, and especially career. What career? Yeah. Flash in the pan.
Yep.
Nothing more. Nothing more than what it was. Just a brief 2-3 year period was just like, wow, this was fun. But we're moving up to number 2, John Bones Jones, former UFC lightweight champion of the world. Latest development with him, of course, we did learn the fact that he actually hid under a cage one time to miss a drug test because the fact he knew it was going to fail. But it was something, I believe, over the weekend. Somebody was trying to break into his house. He ends up finding this guy, chasing him out of his driveway, wearing no shoes, sweatpants, no shirt, and he's chasing the guy down the street with a shotgun. John Bones Jones, failed drug test, reinstatement, failed drug test, rehab, reinstatement, title fight, title defense, still lightweight champion of the world, cannot put it all together. Fantastic athlete, Super Bowl champions in his family. He's got, 2 other brothers that have won Super Bowl rings. Chandler Jones being one of them. Chris Jones as well. The other Chris, no, it's actually Arthur Jones. Arthur Jones is the other one, not Chris Jones, not the one with the Kansas City Chiefs. But John Bones Jones, the black sheep of the family, if you will. Nothing on top of that. That's just a saying. No connotations along with that. But we're moving on to number 1. What else can be said? Infamous Jameis Winston. Now, him being in New Orleans now may actually do him some good.
Yeah.
Clear his head, maybe get an opportunity. The third string guy, of course, we all know that Taysom Hill's going to be, the backup and the heir apparent, hopefully, because that'd be fantastic to watch with the New Orleans Saints and maybe actually do something for once with his ability as well. But, him being in New Orleans, maybe it'll actually do something. Did wonders for Teddy Bridgewater.
It did.
So,
it did.
Number 1, infamous Jameis. Zoners, let us know what you think.
Yes. I think, you made a lot of changes to yours. I made a lot of changes to mine. But again, we're just getting started. And if Zoners, if you want, he's got 2020. Matt said it right here. He's got 2020 vision right now.
30-30 too. 2020
Chief. So we got that going on. So. But yeah, he does have 2020 vision now. So infamous Jameis, we'll see. But again, it's just, you have all that talent. You win a national championship. You win the Heisman. Jameis, just work harder. I don't know. I don't know. Infamous Jameis is number 1 because we can make him number 1. He is the number 1.
We got to get him on the show. That's the end all be all right there. We got to get Jameis Winston to come on the show.
Yeah. So a couple people, our zoners, that chimed in here too. Obviously, we mentioned Paul Fenton, Sean Avery. No Tim Brewster. Now, that's an interesting one. I could definitely put...
That's a deep cut.
We used to have Norwood Teague on here, but he is very up there, dishonorable mention. That's for sure. Mets said, should add Jose Altuve. That's another one. Phil, obviously we got Phil, Moonlight Graham, had more of a career. Jameis is the only quarterback that keeps both teams in the game. That's true.
Gotta love a guy who puts both sides of the ball for both teams. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, man. That was a good one, Mets. So, yeah, as owners, if you want to send in your list, send them in because we want to see what you guys have. Maybe we can add whatever you have. I mean, again, I'm probably missing a ton of people. But, again, we'll see what happens. But, Voldy, we got to move on to our next segment. It's my favorite segment. It's your favorite segment. It's the Zoner's favorite segment. It's Absurd or Approved.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Absurd or Approved.
All right, Voldy, we got a lot to get through, so why don't you rattle them off for us, please?
Well, with the Minnesota Vikings going now 2-5 on the season, that raised a few particular questions with the NFL trade deadline coming and going at Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern. Some trades that did happen at the deadline before that as well, with a few teams that were looking to move up in some certain spots and maybe get that added piece to move on. But with the Vikings now sitting at 2-5 as opposed to 1-6, that probably would have been grounds for a complete overhaul, maybe just a fire sale of players to get rid of, because there were talks of Adam Thielen leaving, Kyle Rudolph, maybe even the likes of Anthony Harris, Harrison Smith, guys like that getting shipped away. Now, absurd or approved, the Vikings staying quiet at the NFL trade deadline.
Again, a lot of people were saying that they were going to make moves. They were going to trade Rudolph. They were going to trade Harrison Smith. They were going to trade Adam Thielen. Well, the Thielen thing, if you did that, the whole state would implode, for one. So that wasn't going to happen. So, Voldy, it's got my stamp of approval. Why does it have my stamp of approval is because I think this was the only thing they could do at this point. And I'm not saying that they should have gone out and been aggressive and, getting rid of some guys, freeing up some cap space. But Spielman already kind of dealt Yannick Ngakoue, and it seemed like they weren't going to re-sign him after the season or anything like that, which is kind of a bummer because I would have liked to see Yannick and Daniil, but that wasn't going to happen. But I would have liked to see them go out and get a veteran corner just to help out the secondary just a little bit. And I'm not saying you have to hold on to them for how long, but most of these guys are rookies. And Mike Hughes has been hurt, banged up, something with his neck. And Cam Dantzler's a little banged up. I mean, the secondary is just so almost is in shambles with injuries, but I like that they kind of stay. I mean, there really weren't any big splashes. There weren't any really big splashes, and it's got my stamp of approval. Spielman, I don't think, unless they really wanted to go and trade a first-round pick to get Stephon Gilmore, which I don't think they could have pulled off. But and going to Ethan. He says, it depends on if you believe they have a chance to improve or not. Do they need to rebuild or not? Fire sale, move one key piece. All depends on how they see themselves. Pretty much what we've been saying. And they're a team that you don't want to keep going the tank for Trevor route and everything like that. Just stop with that nonsense. I already talked about that. But it's got my stamp of approval, and I think, a lot of teams didn't even make any huge splashes themselves besides maybe Carlos Dunlap to the Seahawks, which made sense. Yeah,
that's pretty much the only one I saw.
Yeah, so there really wasn't much going on. But, yeah, it's got my stamp of approval. Voldy, what do you think?
I mean, overall, I think the Vikings staying quiet at the trade deadline is probably a smart move overall. You know what the offense is bringing you. Yeah. Obviously, you need Kirk Cousins to start throwing the ball to the right team and, being able to sustain a lot more drives other than Dalvin Cook, who's going to touch the ball as many times as needed to get a win. The defense, we already know what's in store. We're looking at maybe, second half of next season, maybe to see if Daniil Hunter is going to be 100% to go, maybe missing the first few weeks of the year. Defensive backs hurt, hampered, and saying shambles of this defense is putting it lightly. Yeah. A lot of growth is going to happen this season. It is a season that, obviously is going to be remembered for the point that there was no off season. There were no preseason games. And, it's just difficult to see how the Vikings, could make such big moves. I was interested to see if they would maybe move a tight end if they were going to let go of Rudolph or something, because they do have Ty Conklin, do have Irv Smith Jr. They had that other guy. Oh God, what was his name? They had like 4 tight ends. Had the Hendricks or something like that. Yeah. Mikhail, something like it was Michael, but it was spelt weird. And they had him for a few weeks before they let him go, but Obviously the Vikings not doing anything shows the fact that they're in it for this year. And, obviously the fact that it takes two sides for a trade to happen. So maybe the rest of the league's just like, no, I don't think we want anything from you. So I think it's approved that the Vikings stayed quiet.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And, I can't dispute that fact because, there weren't any. The team that should, and I'm kind of throwing a shot here at Packer fans, but Will Fuller, wow. What dysfunction between management and with Rodgers and everything. Not looking good for Rodgers coming back. I don't know.
Yep.
That's interesting. All right, next one, Voldy.
Well, we go to the professional football to college ranks once again. Old Trevor Lawrence, America's quarterback, apparently, because everybody loves Trevor Lawrence so far. Well, with the fact that he tested positive for COVID-19 this past week, that led to his backup, Big Cinco, Big Ugly, as I like to call him, because I can't pronounce his last name to save my life. But now Trevor Lawrence, who's going to be sitting out this next week as well with that COVID test positive, and the fact it's going to be against Notre Dame, he's already out of the running for the Heisman Trophy, apparently, as multiple sports books are saying that Trevor Lawrence is no longer a favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. Of course, it's now going towards Alabama quarterback Mac Jones and also the likes of Ohio State quarterback fields as well. Now, do you think it's absurd or approved that Trevor Lawrence is no longer a big-time favorite to win the Heisman Trophy?
I think he definitely should be in consideration. With times like these, COVID, 2020, just in general, they have to take every precaution. I get that. But I think he needs... I believe he still should be in the Heisman race because he is that good. And I'm not, the whole tank for Trevor nonsense and everything like that, whatever. It's probably going to be the Jets getting him. But I think Trevor Lawrence will kind of show people, hey, you know what? I'm still that guy, okay? When he gets back, when he's recovered from COVID, and he's not in a state of where he can't, I think he's going to be ready to go whenever they call his name. And Clemson has one heck of a team. Dabo's done a great job. And I think he still deserves to be in there because so it's got my stamp of approval. He should still be in talks for the race because he's that good. But and if not, if there's someone playing, Justin Fields and everything like that, that's fine with me too. But if it's someone else, I guess it really doesn't matter too much to me because I don't know, it's just the trophy you get. Oh, Heisman, oh great, whatever. But I think he should still be in talks. So Voldy, what do you think?
Looking at the numbers that Trevor Lawrence has put up, 70.7% completion percentage,
okay.
1,833 yards, 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions in 5 games this season already, 5-6 games already for Clemson.
Yeah.
If he doesn't win the Heisman Trophy after missing this past week, and this week, I would be shocked. Name one other person that's going to do better than him.
All right.
Obviously, the fact that Mac Jones for Alabama's in consideration, Justin Fields for Ohio State. If Ohio State goes undefeated and start putting up, Trevor Lawrence numbers, then yes, Justin Fields is going to win the Heisman Trophy. But until that happens, it's still going to be Trevor Lawrence hoisting the Heisman Trophy at the end of the year. I think it's absurd that, Vegas and all those sports books are writing him out to complete with.
Right, and I think that's where I say that's absurd because if they're just writing him off, they shouldn't. The guy's an incredible talent, and you can't just all of a sudden say, well, you know what, we're just going to throw him to the side. He got COVID, so he won't be doing that well. Well, I really hope he comes out and shuts you guys up, so that's kind of our hope. The Trevor, here's one thing. The Trevor train was passing by you there, Voldy, so I'll tank for Trevors and whatnot. When it comes down to blocking and tackling, new idiom for you there, Maddie. I appreciate it, Ethan. A decision about odds for winning the Heisman. It's about opportunity. They're hedging their bets against them being out long term. They can always change it again when it comes back. Well, when he comes back. Yeah.
This is why I don't gamble with money. I only gamble with my life. So
yeah. To the blocking, when it comes down to the blocking and tackling, exactly. All right, next one, Voldy.
Well, here's an interesting one that has some certain interesting developments as the last few days have gone on. The Ontario Hockey League, one of the premier junior hockey leagues in Canada that produces a lot of top-tier talent that gets drafted year in and year out in the NHL first-year entry draft, came out with some initial reports that the Ontario Hockey League is looking at a return-to-play plan that would involve no body checking in the game itself. Now, recently, Ontario Premier Doug Ford is working with health officials and experts to the fact that obviously now no body checking or other physical contact in hockey is next to impossible, if impossible, to even fathom about as well. Even most recently, some reports as well talking about the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League that has produced some of the best players in the NHL currently are possibly looking at the fact to ban body checking came after outbreaks did come in the QMJHL, leading to games being postponed or rescheduled as well. My question is it absurd or approved that you look at junior hockey possibly having no body checking in the return to play at all for this upcoming season?
Well, I think it's absurd. How can you avoid it? How can you not? There's so much that with COVID and everything like that, there's going to be tests and whatnot. But having no body checking just seems like, all the fast, the speedsters and things like that can get by people, get by the defense. But I can't see this working without having, going full go. I mean, NFL is doing that with, tackling and block, being blocked, people being tackled. I just don't get why that it's with COVID. I get it, COVID and everything. Like, you want everyone to be safe. But in hockey, I just can't see why. I mean, I don't see how you can avoid it. I mean, someone prove me wrong. I mean, please. I mean, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's absurd because you really can't avoid it. So, Voldy, what do you think?
This would be very interesting to see if something would happen out of this, because of the fact that hockey and hitting, obviously, over the last, half dozen years, talking about even banning fighting altogether. This goes along with that same sentiment. You can't have one without the other. You can't have hockey without hitting, can't have hitting without hockey as well, because it's not so much about physical contact and violence. It's about, just finishing off your shift on a good note. Because of the fact that, maybe not always you're going to score a goal on each shift. You just got to be able to contribute some way, knock the other guy off his game plan, maybe rattle him around a little bit. But it's not about violence. It's about doing your part in the game itself. But obviously the fact there's still too many variables, because this would go along the same sentiment of the NFL saying, we're not going to be tackling this year. We're going to go strictly flag football style, full pads though, just no tackling. But obviously there's still a lot going on. The Ontario Hockey League, I believe, is scheduled to come back February 4th is when they're, so they still got some time, but obviously they have to have the plans in place, working with the major health officials. It's certainly a very interesting situation. It would be absurd if they did go no body checking this coming season, but I mean, we'll just have to wait and see how it all turns out. Yeah,
I'm glad that a lot of our zoners are kind of with us on this too. It's just, you can't just not have that. They're going to have to figure out a way to figure it out. And, I think Ethan pretty much talked about it here in the comments about, this being more, airborne transmission and whatnot. So, I don't know enough about the virus to say, well, really, the NFL knew this was going to happen. So I think, all these hockey leagues have to know, well, it's going to happen. Just, follow the protocols. Just take after what all these other leagues did. The NBA and the NFL right now. And again, you're going to have to do some adjusting. So just throwing that out there. All right, next one, Voldy.
All right, so we're kind of alluding to this one a little bit earlier in the show as well when talking about Major League Baseball and everybody wants to get a trophy. Well, the NFL Competition Committee is expecting to present to owners here in the coming days a resolution of promoting a 16-team playoff scenario in the event that games are lost to the coronavirus pandemic. Of course, that would include the likes of the traditional 16-team tournament, 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5, in the AFC and the NFC. So you're taking 16 teams. You're taking half the league that's going to make the playoffs, and the other half is not going to make the playoffs. Basically saying everybody still gets a trophy regardless of the fact of how you actually did this season. Now, nothing has been set yet. The NFL owners did already approve a plan in March to expand to 14 teams as well. Is it absurd to approve the possibility of 16 playoff teams in the NFL?
It's too many dang teams. I just all this change with the NFL and saying, well, we're going to add an extra playoff team. Okay, fine, cool, I get it. But then just adding more and more, it's like, oh my God, like how many teams are you going to put in here? It's just, I feel like it's just too crowded. And I understand the money grab aspect and whatnot, but I feel like, too, a lot of coaches could be losing their jobs even if they make the playoffs. I mean, let's just say, and again, let's just say a team like, I don't know, who's kind of like middle of the road or what?
Arizona. We'll say Arizona.
Okay, we'll go with Arizona. So let's just say Arizona gets in it. They finish 8-8 or 7-9 or whatever the hell. And they go into this game, they're taking on, let's just say, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or something like that.
Okay.
Feels like a playoff revenue grab to me. Exactly. That's how I feel, too.
That's even if they allow fans in.
Yeah, that's another factor in as well. And especially with what's going on with the pandemic. But I don't know why they keep trying to entertain this. I understand the money grab and whatnot, playoff revenue, whatever. But let's just say you're taking on the Buccaneers. Buccaneers are doing really well. Antonio Brown's doing really well. But they get crushed, and Cliff Kingsbury gets canned because, well, you got killed by the Patriots. You made the playoffs. You got to be good somehow. I don't agree. I just don't. But Laura brings up a good point here, too. Not a fan. That will make the playoffs not interesting to watch. It will be too long, drawn out. Exactly. That's what we're saying. And it's frustrating to me whenever they try and expand that. Stop with the expanding. Just leave it the way it is, okay? Fine, you can add an extra playoff team. You know, only the number 1 seed gets a bye. Whatever. Cool. Fine. Just don't keep adding teams.
Yep.
It's absurd. So, Voldy, what do you think?
You know, I've been saying this ever since the Major League Baseball added the second wild card game. It's cheapening the value of making the playoffs. It always has been. I don't like the fact that they keep trying to do this and shove it down our throats of adding more playoff teams. What's obviously made the playoffs is great. Your team will finish 8-8. You finish 7-9 and somehow are able to get in as the number 8 seed in the playoffs. You'll get thrashed by the top seed. Who knows? Maybe you might even pick up a win. But I just hate the fact that this keeps happening. Obviously, the television rights is going to be a huge draw. That's going to bring in money for both teams and the opportunity for the networks as well. Stop doing it. It hurts the game of football. It hurts Major League Baseball, too. Obviously, the pockets are very filled with money. Somebody's money. Like I keep saying each and every day when I go to work, hey, at least somebody's making money. Sure isn't me, but it's happening. Obviously, I don't want this to happen. It's completely absurd. Just stick to what you have. The fact that you added a second wild card game, a couple of years ago, it's still a bit of a mixed reaction in my mind, but, I can't control it. I just hate to see it. Stop it. It's absurd.
Everyone, I think, our zoners and everyone else agrees with this, too. I mean, it's going to be too long and drawn out, like Laura was saying. It just doesn't... doesn't make any sense to do. It's like, well, what if we get a Cinderella team like, the Seattle Seahawks and what? It's like, well, that's why they have the divisions and everything. If the division is just crap and whatnot, they host a playoff game against the Aints, which I really enjoyed, by the way, with the Beastquake. But it's... Yeah, stop adding teams. That's all I got to say. From NFL fans to the NFL, stop trying to add more playoff teams, okay? Stop getting greedy with money. All right, last one, Voldy.
Yep, finally here with the National Basketball Association. Commissioner Adam Silver is pleading with ownership and top basketball executives to say that time is running out for the start of the 2020-21 season, that they are hoping to start before Christmas Day, and possibly trying to, save face and save some money as well. Basically, they want to try and start the season December 22nd with a reduced 72-game schedule that is left the start of training camps less than a month away. December 1st is when training camps would potentially start for the NBA for a pre-Christmas tip. But as the days become fewer and far between that day and right now, it's not looking too good. Do you think it's absurd or approved the NBA would start before Christmas?
I don't think it's going to start before Christmas. I think they're going to have to go to January or something like that. I don't know. It's gonna be after Christmas, I feel like.
Yep.
Because the NBA has done a really good job of what they did with the bubble. And now I think, Adam Silver, like you were saying, Voldy, he's trying to get them to get it going because they could salvage some revenue, it seems like. Hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, apparently. So if they want to get it to do a December 22nd start or reduce 72 game regular season, which is fine. I think that would work out okay. But you gotta find a middle ground if you want to get this done, because we're at November 4th, and if you want to get a December 22nd start, you better get going. And I don't care if you're, even in October, you guys should, had something nailed down. But I think Adam Silver knows what he's doing, and I know the general managers want this to get rolling as well. And, the NBA draft is coming up here too, so, the Wolves with their pick and whatnot. But let's figure out a deal here, because if you want to get started before Christmas, you're running out of time, man. That's all I got to say. So I think it's absurd that they're still waiting on that. But
right,
if you want to save some money, apparently that's the way to do it. Go the Polad way and save some money. But anyway, Voldy, what do you think?
I think it's absurd. There's no way they're going to start before Christmas. I'm saying January 17th is when they're going to start.
Yeah. Yep.
50-game schedule, and they're going to put in all 32 NBA basketball teams in the playoffs.
Right.
That's just how it's going to go. Because the route everybody wants to go, everybody's making the playoffs. Why not throw every team in there and just go good old-fashioned March Madness-style tournament and just let the kids play? And, yeah, I think mid to late January is probably where they're going to start. Maybe January 1st. Definitely not going to get all 72 games in. I think it's absurd they even consider going to a pre-Christmas start for a 72-game season. It's completely absurd.
Yeah, so if you want to save some money, figure it out. If you're like, well, we got to start later because we don't know what we're doing, then you're going to have to wait till after Christmas. Sorry, but that's just how it has to be. All right, well, I think that's going to do it for Absurd or Approved, I believe, right, Voldy?
That it is.
All right, sweet. So I think it's time for, that background that you have there, I think it says Shield Shoutouts, I believe.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, look at that. So we're going to do some Shield Shoutouts because why the heck not, as the Kerf Doctor likes to say. So let's get it rolling with some Shield Shoutouts.
Shield Shoutouts.
it's time for some Shield shout-outs. So, Shield, who you shouting out tonight?
Yes, we got to give a big Shield shout out to Nathan Enstrom, our 400th Facebook like on our Facebook page, fellow teammate with the Aikens team. Winner of our t-shirt giveaway. We've got Nathan's shirt going to be going in the mail here this week. Congratulations, and thank you to all the zoners for liking up our Facebook page. And, maybe we keep going, keep getting more followers. When we get to 500, we may do something special for that as well. Why the heck not? We'll have to wait and see. Be sure to, help us out a little bit. Spread the word. MinneZona Sports Live to all your friends, family, colleagues, co-workers, people you don't like, people you do like, anybody everywhere in between. Just let them know to follow us on the old Facebook and the socials medias. Have to go to our next Shield shout-out. Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa winning his first NFL start against the Los Angeles Rams of all teams on Sunday, a 28-17 victory, which did include his first career touchdown pass going to Devontae Parker. Congrats to Tua for his first NFL victory and his first NFL start. Some somber news from this past week that did, include the passing of someone that contributed to the game of hockey, maybe not so much on the ice, but off the ice as well. Former Boston University hockey player turned philanthropist Travis Roy did pass away this past week, who made something out of the condition of becoming a quadriplegic after playing just 11 seconds into his first shift of his first career game with Boston University back in 1995. Shortly after, and after years of battling his condition, he did start the Travis Roy Foundation, which helps spinal cord injury survivors live more independent lives, and through adaptive equipment grants and funding scientific research as well. The game of hockey lost a true champion as well. Travis Roy did pass away this past week as well. We send our well wishes to him and his family during this time. But we do finish off Shield shout-outs this week. Former Boston Red Sox pitcher and possibly former Cubs pitcher John Lester this past week decided to toast the city of Chicago in the only way that he knew how. Left open tabs at 4 different establishments over the weekend, Halloween weekend, to those drinking Miller Lights, and that ended up totaling $47,000 for John Lester, quite possibly ending his tenure with the Chicago Cubs. And, maybe quite possibly even finishing off his career as well. Decided to give back to the city of Chicago that gave him so much, including a 2016 World Series, even though he was a champion already with the Boston Red Sox. Bit of a tumultuous ending with the Red Sox. We won't talk about that. But, of course, it was keeping the tabs open and, serving up some cold ones for the fellas down in Chicago. That's going to do it for Shield shoutouts this week.
All right. Great job, Shield, as always.
Yeah.
And, it was a rocking show tonight. We appreciate everyone that's tuned in and chimed in as well. But a couple things that we got to get through. So, last week, you know how we talked to you guys about Q&A Thursdays, You can throw boo birds and everything. I forgot to set up the post, so you can boo.
I forgot. Let's be honest, we both
forgot.
forgot.
We both forgot. But we did
Being
do a
adult
Friday.
is hard, okay, guys?
We did have one on Friday. Okay, impromptu, I might add as well. So I'm sorry to the zoners that happened, but hey, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll have video and whatnot. Add a couple GIFs just to spice it up a little bit. So make sure you check out the Instas. Ask us anything. If it doesn't have to be sports. It could be like, DJ Matty C, what color socks are you wearing today? I don't know. Stuff like that. But check out Q&A Thursdays. We got a lot going on. Also, there are MinneZona t-shirts that are available. Shield mentioned that we gave away one. Who's to say not saying we're going to give away all of them, but it's a great deal. It helps us keep us on the air here on Facebook Live with eCam and whatnot. It's $20, $5 shipping if need be. And you can talk to me. You can talk to Shield. You can talk to the Kerf Doctor. You talk to Jimbo, right to Jimbo. Venmo, PayPal, whatever. Okay, it's a great shirt. 5 out of 5 stars. Double Trouble still hasn't gotten their shirts yet, but we don't talk about that. We don't want to talk about that because I already talked about it too much. But moving on. W2 Performance. Will Rattel is doing a great job with the Barbell Nerds. I think we need to have Will back on here soon. And I think we got to have a in-person interview, talk about his stories with the Falcons, and as well as the Chiefs, too. So we keep talking with Will. And maybe, I don't know, maybe we can join their podcast. I don't know, maybe do a crossover. We'll see. But and another show you got to check out, Jack Kiesling, Jack's Junkyard. He's got new episodes out. Make sure you check his stuff out. He's been sharing, he's been liking our stuff, and we're trying to do the same as well. So shout out to all the zoners that have their own shows. We want to make sure that we're getting you guys the amount of we got to help out our zoners, because why the heck not? That's how I look at it. So anyway, great job tonight, Shield. Unfortunately, Shield will be gone next week. He's going to a wedding.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But Shield will return. He might pop in. You never know. We'll see. But we plan to have a show. Who knows who might fill in? Who knows who might fill in for next week? But we plan to have a show. So that's the fact of the matter. That's the first time I said that tonight, by the way. First time I said that tonight. So I just had to do it. As soon as I get my hoodie, I'm wearing that ish on my show for weeks.
Yeah. Do it.
If the zoners want sweatshirts, we can also make that available, I think. So we'll get it figured out. Anyway.
Yep.
But anyway, remember, as always, folks, keep in the zone.
Holla.
Thank you for watching MinneZona Sports Live. Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. for live show broadcast. And as Voldy likes to say, follow us on all the socials medias.